has come to take my stand.
Hello, I'm Donna Skell.
And I'm Tiffany Ross.
Welcome to Roaring Lambs, the show that brings you real stories of real people that serve a real God. We're excited today because we have a roaring lamb in our studio today, and it's going to be a great show. Imagine this, though. At age 16, you were diagnosed with cancer. I mean, teen years are hard enough with all the built-in issues, but to have to experience those years bald, sick, and different from all the other girls in the class, that is extra hard. And that's only one aspect of our guest story, so stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Mcdaniel, and I am so excited to share with you an opportunity that I had to be part of the Roaring Lambs Ministry Testimonial Workshop. As a pastor's wife and a lady who shares her testimony with a lot of people, it was an opportunity for me to be able to sit down and learn for the first time how to put my testimony into writing that can really lead others to Christ through my story. And I encourage you today, check out roaringlambs.org and sign up, and don't miss out on your blessing. Not only will it bless you, it will bless so many when they hear your testimony. God bless.
Our guest today is Stephanie Mcdaniel. Stephanie is a pastor's wife. She's active, she's a hiker, she's a health enthusiast, she's an author, and as you can see, she stays really busy. She's the mother of 3 adult children and helps serve with her husband at their local church. So we're so excited to have you today, Stephanie.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much, ladies.
Oh, you are welcome. And you do have an amazing story, but like every story, we like to start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about your childhood, your growing up years,
Absolutely.
and what your life was like as a kiddo.
As a young person. So I have to say I grew up in a small town in New Jersey called Pequannock. Don't ask me to spell it. I spelled it my whole life. But Irish Catholic family, youngest of 5, latchkey kid. Just the overall, I have to say, childhood filled with great memories and Catholic school uniforms and swimming at the lake. My family was very active in sports, and I had some tough brothers who were a lot older than me, and they were determined that their baby sister was not going to play like a girl, and taught me the tough lessons for soccer and baseball, and which was good because they didn't have little girl league, so I had to be on the boys team when I was young.
Wow.
So I needed that when I was 7 and 8 to play soccer and baseball. And then I had a mom who was very creative and artistic, and I had me in ballet shoes by the time I was 3, and really taught me a lot of grace and how to be a lady. So I had this great balance of toughness yet gracefulness, which, you know, I needed that resilience. When I got a little older. I didn't know what time would bring, but it definitely helped to build a foundation that I was going to need.
That is fascinating to me, just the juxtaposition of ballerina, soccer, you know.
Baseball.
It's typically one or the other, but how wonderful for you to have such a rounded experience even as a youngster.
I love that I had a mom who didn't mind putting her girl on the field with a bunch of boys, you know, but at the same time wanted me to be creative and artistic.
That's great. And so you'd mentioned Catholic school, and so I'm just curious what the spiritual environment was like at your home growing up.
So my parents were very traditionally Catholic, very devout. We didn't miss a mass on Sundays, and we said our grace before every dinner, and we were, very respectful. We were taught to be very respectful, follow the commandments of God, you know, don't steal, don't lie, all the good stuff. And but it was very traditional. So basically I wasn't raised in a talk to Jesus home. I was raised in a more conservative, you don't really speak about your faith, but you just go every week and sit in the pew and behave when you're there. But I can't say that that represented my own personal experience as a child, because even though I was being raised like that, I was having these talk to Jesus moments in my own time with the Lord, not even understanding what it really was all about, but just knowing that He was there when I was a child and needed Him. I had a really interesting experience when I was about 11. We had done, our church always did a passion play, and if someone doesn't know what that is, it's when the actors reenact Jesus' suffering and the crucifixion and His resurrection. And the gentleman who played Jesus, he was like a Broadway actor, so he was really good at our little church. And it was Easter morning, and me being the youngest and everyone else still asleep, my mom would put Easter baskets around the table, and it would have little stuff in our chocolate bunnies and our peeps and all of that. And of course, I ran downstairs early, went through my basket, and I was all excited. And I went into our kitchen, and all of a sudden, I heard this fatherly voice say, "Is this what it's all about? Is this what my son died for?" And at 11, I was in shock, and I didn't know what was happening. And I fell to the floor on that orange linoleum kitchen floor, and I began to just say, "I'm so sorry." And all the scenes from the Passion play that I had just seen that Friday was going through my mind, his death, the cross, his resurrection. And I said, "Lord, I'll never do this again. I'll never come down in the morning and be excited about a chocolate bunny again." So it was those touch points in my life that I felt like the Lord presented himself. And maybe I didn't really understand it, but I definitely received it.
Yes.
So yeah.
And he knew what your future would hold, and so in a way he was preparing you
Absolutely.
for that. But at age 15, you had a friend named Angela,
Yes.
and she and her family had a great impact on you, didn't they?
The best. So Angela is my friend since we were 4. When you go to Catholic school, you're pretty much with the same kids for the 10 years of your life, right? Well, she's like my sister. We say sister from another mister. And I was like their adopted Irish girl in the Italian family. She came from a very Italian family. They owned a restaurant, and her parents were part of the charismatic movement at the church, which essentially means they believed in a more charismatic way of worshiping through the Holy Spirit, and really more of an evangelical way than, say, a traditional Catholic service. And they had their own prayer meetings. And so when I would go to her house, that's where, her mom would have Christian music playing every day, and we'd go over and her Bible would always be open. And I remember passing her parents' room, and her dad would be on his knees with his arms outstretched praying. And I remember thinking, wow, I've never seen this before. If I ever saw hands up, it was in church, and that was kind of rare. But to see it done in such a personal walk. And they loved me like their own daughter, and they would take me on vacation with them all the time, which was great because I had a house in Florida. Come from New Jersey, that long drive to Florida is something that people do. And they were having a prayer meeting at their home, and they had a lot of Pentecostal friends in Florida. So the Pentecostal friends were over, and Angela and I were there. We were 15 at the time. And when we came out after the prayer meeting was done, one of the ladies approached us, and she said, "Would you like to be in have a fellowship with Jesus? And would you like to be born again?" And we looked at each other and said, "Yeah, it sounds good." So she prayed with us, and she said, "No, when you go home, write in your Bible that this is the day that you're born again." And I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it felt really good, and I really enjoyed her prayer. And when I got home, I remember my mom said, "Now sit down and tell me about your trip. How was Disney World?" and da-da-da. And I said, "Well, Mom, I was born again." And she didn't know really what that expectation was. She didn't know what had happened. And she basically said, "Well, honey, I don't think we should worry about that. I don't." So, I tucked it away, and without any nourishment in that part of my life, my spiritual life, I just kind of went back to my usual, protocol. However, the Lord knew that the upcoming year was going to be the test of my life.
Right.
And actually, on the way back from that trip, her parents always wanted to be on the 700 Club. So in the audience, that was like her dad's goal. So we drove through and were part of the audience. But what was so interesting was while we were waiting, I don't even remember the area we were waiting in, the co-hosts or whoever, I don't even know their names, came through. And they came up to our table, and one of the gentlemen said, "Can we pray for this young lady?"
And you were the lady?
And I was the young lady. Wow. And they laid hands, and that was the first time I really heard prayer and speaking in tongues and the Holy Spirit. And these men, and the assistants surrounded us, and they all prayed for me, and not knowing what my journey. And isn't it amazing how God will use people we don't even know to prepare us for our battles?
Yes.
And I believe that summer He really did prepare me.
That is stunning, how the Lord is just reaching down and preparing you, like you said. So let's go to this now. 15 years old you are, and you had an experience where you felt like you were dying at one point, and these were the early signs of something, yes?
Yeah, so it started out pain in my shoulder, this and that. She's young, she's active, she has a 5-degree curvature spine, you name it, they just didn't know. but the pain would get more and more aggressive. It started out in one area, then it just started to really go across my entire back to where I was having fits where I couldn't breathe. I was on tons of pain medicine every day, and nothing was really helping after a while. And then it was my senior year. It was the fall school had just started, and I was in my first period class, Spanish, and all of a sudden I felt like I was caught in a vice grip. And I remember I just started to profusely sweat, and I thought, oh my gosh, people are going to see this. I can't breathe. And I was just thinking, just raise your hand, just get out of here. And I couldn't even find words. And I finally was able to raise my hand and say, I have to go to the nurse. And my teacher was, and I didn't know how I was going to exit the room. It took all of my power to figure out, how do I get out of here? And I remember walking down the halls, and I was grabbing the lockers. And I was thinking, oh gosh, please don't let anyone come out of their class, because this will be so embarrassing. And I got to the nurse's office, and I said, call my mom. I think I'm dying. And I just collapsed.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I think that was the first time I understood a personal mortality. Like, I really believed that the pages of my life might have just been ended right there. You know, that pain was just going to stop my life. And even then I knew within my spirit something was dreadfully wrong.
Yes.
And I didn't know what, but I knew that from that point on, I had a feeling that my life was probably never going to be the same.
Right. So
Yeah.
what happened next? You know, they call your mom, she comes?
Yes, she raced there,
And of course.
and thank God the hospital was just 2 minutes away. It's right across from the school. So we raced over, and we ran in, and it was interesting because the emergency room doctor basically came over and said, this is all in her head. She's 16, she just needs attention. And I looked around and I thought, is everyone here suffering and not, is this all imagined?
Yeah.
And he walked away, and there was a nurse who came up to my mom. When the doctor walked away, he walked out, and she said, there's something seriously wrong with her. And don't stop till you figure it out.
God bless that nurse.
And so, and when the doctor came back, she scurried, she went away. And my mom, to this day, whenever my mom was really angry, was ready to use both of your names, Stephanie Marie, the teeth clenched. Well, she looked at that doctor with that face, and God bless her heart, she didn't even know what she was asking for. She said, I demand an MRI. She had just seen on the news something about MRIs. She didn't even really know what it was, but she just thought she needed to ask for it. And he said, okay, whatever, you have insurance. Let's get this lady out of here with her hypochondriac daughter. And so they did the MRI, and that same doctor had to call us back a few days later and apologize and say, there is something wrong, and we need to send her to a specialist, an oncologist, hematologist, and that he was so sorry. And then began the dance of in and out of hospitals, and I should be glowing in the dark with all that they did, and it was one experience after the other, and it took a while. The amazing thing was, I loved my doctor, Dr. Martin Frank. He was young at the time, and he specialized in what they discovered I had, but he said, I know what you have, but I need the test to prove it. I need to make sure he said, but I know we're gonna get you better. And it just, to me, was the first ray of light, like, okay, somebody gets this, and somebody's gonna help me through this. We're gonna get through this battle. I didn't know what the battle would be, but we were gonna get through it. And gosh, he was just by my side. All through the battle, because eventually do get the call after a couple of months, it was right before Christmas time, that I was 16 and I had cancer. So.
I think about 16 and just, it's going way back for me, but I can
Me
just
too.
imagine, your mind is all caught up with friends and school and proms and trips and just all the things that you think about when you're 16. And here, all of a sudden, it was like a dramatic stop to all that. I'm sure you didn't even get to go back to school right away.
No.
And all of a sudden, your life turned on a dime, and you're faced with cancer.
Yes.
So what happened next?
So, strangely enough, when we got the call, when I was told I had cancer, my first reaction was relief, because I had been basically thrown into the unknown for so long, and I was dealing with so much pain, that to know that I could simply get an answer, at least we have an answer. we can fight this.
Right.
We know what it is now, we can do something. So for me, it was just about getting ready for the battle. Okay, this is what it is. It's not what I am, it's what I'm battling.
Yes.
So
Good
we can do that.
point.
And that's just kind of how we approached it. And yeah, to be 16 and to be told that, and you know, you think about how it does change you. You realize a lot early that, you know, your shoulders have to carry something that they probably weren't ready for, but that's what happens with adolescent cancer. You know, we go through something that we don't expect. We maybe don't trust easily after the process of life that so many take for granted. We no longer can. There's a shadow there for us. And it's something that, you know, people do carry throughout their life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's important in the book that I wrote, Girl Undone, Girl Redeemed, it's about how do we go through trauma and live a legacy of life after. Who do we become?
Right.
Who is our new I am? Because it does change. And it doesn't have to be childhood cancer. That was my struggle. But whatever that struggle is, whatever that trauma is, you know, we have to know that we can take the best of who we were and merge it with who we are now. And be that light for the next person, because somebody's going to go through that struggle.
Right.
There's another 16-year-old girl out there who's being told that news.
Right.
You know, who can she look to and know that there's hope? Because there is. There's
Right.
hope.
And that's one of the reasons that God allows us to go through trials,
Yeah.
is so it strengthens our character, so we depend
Absolutely.
more on Him. And I guess at 16 you would realize that life is a lot more than what we look like on the outside, because I
Absolutely.
know you went through chemo and
Yes.
actually lost all your hair.
Oh,
And you know, at 16 that alone is a big thing. But
That's funny you said that. When it came to hair loss, I really didn't care. I really didn't. Maybe because Sinead O'Connor was a big singer back then.
yeah.
If anyone knows who she is. I think that the hair loss was so minor to me, and I was happy putting on some lipstick and some big hoop earrings and putting a bandana on. I was more concerned about how other people felt around me.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
did
So-
they react?
That's a great question. So it depended. So my dearest friends were like, it was hot in the summer, like, ditch the wig, put the bandana on, let's go, you know, when I could. But when I went to school, I didn't want to freak kids out too much, because this was the early 90s, and a lot of people didn't have many experiences with the C word yet. It's not like it is today. There weren't a lot of supportive environments. There was no Stand Up to Cancer campaigns. So there was still a lot of questioning and suspicion, and people would pull their children away from me in public places. And, you know, young people, some did ask, you know, not really thoughtful questions, but then some people did. So, you know, you just have to meet people where they are. And I remember one time I was in the hospital and my sister-in-law came, and it was one of those really bad the hair fallout times. And when she came in, I turned my head on the pillow and it was just hair. I didn't care, but she went to pulling the hair down because she thought it would upset me. But my heart was, I didn't want her to be upset about it. So yeah, no, I had fun. Okay, being artistic, I loved going and trying on wigs.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I had the best time.
Yeah.
I would try on all different kinds. I
Yeah.
made my mom buy me like a dark, like Donna's color hair,
Yeah.
Cleopatra style.
yeah.
I never wore it to school because I didn't want to, you know, people would be like, okay, she's crazy, but yeah, but I did. I loved doing all that. That just fed into my whole dramatic side. So that was some good times.
Gosh. So you just looked the picture of health now. So after
good.
a year or so,
A
were
year.
you free and clear? Is that
I was.
wonderful?
I was.
Wonderful.
Interesting situation. After a year of chemo, they thought I was going to just go to school, come on my lunch break, do my treatments. No. After my first treatment, I went home. I was sick every 10 minutes throughout the night. My brother David, who I'm so thankful for in that part of my life, he actually switched campuses for college so he could be nearby and commute to school to be there for my parents. And he sat by that bedside with me all night and changed out that trash. And then he picked me up the next day, scooped me up, carried me to the car, and they realized, oh my gosh, this is not going to be easy for her. So basically I would have to go in and be sedated for 3 days straight, so I could keep the medicines down and where they could kind of really keep an eye on everything. And then after that, they would kind of wake me back up, send me home. And within 10 days, I would always be back in the hospital with infections and whatnot, blood counts and all that crazy stuff. So it was constantly in and out of the hospital for a year. And then right when I was finishing my year of chemo, I was told, well, we don't know if she has to start radiation. And I was done. You know, I had gone as far as I could in my own strength. And it was hard with family and trying to be strong for everyone and not breaking down and crying, because I felt like if I cried, it would just be the domino effect across the family. And that was the night I went in my room and I wept. And I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. I am tired. And I don't know what else to do. And floods just came up, just floods. Everything that had been pent up just rolled out. And oddly enough, I suddenly fell asleep. Like all this was happening, and then I just went to sleep. And it was later in the night, and it was like a floodlight. Like someone took a flashlight right in my face, and I woke up because we kept my room very dark, and I was like, why am I seeing a floodlight? And I looked around, and I looked at my clock, and it was like 11:47 or something, and I looked across my room, and I saw the Lord come across my room.
Wow.
Radiant, covered. And he went to the end, touched my foot, and before I could even comprehend the peace that I was feeling, he was gone. And I didn't even know where to place that. And I went back to sleep, and I woke up the next day, and I was trying to think, who was that? What was that?
Was it real?
Was it real? And within a week, we got the call, she's done. She's healed. She's clean. And as I later began to know the Lord, he revealed to me what that was, how he came, and how he touched me. So from the crown of my head to the sole of my feet. And that's where he steps in. You know, God sent his angels with my doctor and the nurses, and definitely gifts his people. But there are times where we just need his touch to just get that complete fullness. So, yeah.
But you had a detour
Yes.
in really knowing Jesus personally.
Yes.
So what was the alluring aspect of what you were seeking after?
Absolutely. So you would think, with all these amazing grace moments, and there are so many that I put them in the book because it was just one amazing grace moment after another throughout this whole journey. You'd think I would so easily just be like, Lord, here I am, and you know, I'm just so grateful for life, and I'm through this. But that's just not, you know, sometimes our journey to healing is messy, and we question, and we're angry. You know, I was left angry after I went through everything, and I was angry at my body. I felt like it had failed me. You know, here I was, this athlete and dancer for all these years, and what? My body failed me, you know, and I was angry at my father for how he kind of had to deal with the pain, which I learned later an understanding about that, but just so much anger and bitterness. And you know, bitter roots have bitter fruit, and they manifest. And so in my search for a meaning, deeper meaning, or what had happened, or what is life all about, I definitely detoured. I was artistic. I was in art school, surrounded by people with alternative belief systems, and I found myself really being, you know, kind of leaning towards more New Ageism, and it was alluring, and it seemed like light, and it seemed like it could give answers, where I didn't feel like I was getting answers in other areas. I didn't have enough understanding. So my spiritual gas tank was empty, and I was putting the wrong fuel in. And I did that for a few years, and I found myself going deeper and deeper into depression. I found myself deeper and deeper into an eating disorder all of a sudden, obsessive compulsive behaviors. And then I got to a point where I realized I felt like I was surrounded by darkness. And when I tried to pinpoint where is it coming from, I realized it was coming from the fuel that I was putting into my tank, which was the books and the research and where I was searching out truth. I realized that things can appear like truth, but you know what? There's some counterfeits out there that when you don't know, you just don't know. And then I'm so thankful I was reconnected to the Lord when I met my husband, Gabriel. Yeah, because he was the one who kind of brought me back to understanding. And we met in art school, and we were friends, and I just felt so much peace around this guy. I'm like, why do I just feel peace whenever he's around? And he would give me hugs, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm home, you know? And after we graduated, we started dating. And we would talk for hours, and everything was just so in alignment, what we enjoyed, going to the museums and everything. And And then, Donna, we go to dinner one night. Are you ready, Tiffany? And we're at dinner. And meanwhile, we didn't talk much about our upbringing in our faiths. But he was a preacher's kid, okay? And he was a worship minister growing up, you know. And so we're at dinner, and he begins to tell me, I have some news, real serious about it too. I have news, and I need to tell you that I got to get saved. Well, you're talking to a girl who doesn't speak Christianese, right? I don't know what he's talking about. So I'm from Jersey. The first thing I do is grab his hand, like, oh my gosh, are you in trouble? Who's after you? And he looks at me like I am crazy. And I said, and he's like, what? He's like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Who's after you? And he said, Jesus. He said, what I'm talking about is I feel the Lord calling me. And then I kind of got annoyed. I was like, well, how do you know he's not calling me? I mean, why wouldn't you ask me to want to know about this? So I said, okay, I need to know what's going on. So he began to explain to me what it was all about. And then my mind went back to, wait a minute, I've been here before, different Christianese term.
Right.
She was saying born again. And I said, okay, at 15, he's talking the same language, just getting saved, born again. I'm learning my Christianese terms, right? This is my intro to Christianese. So I wanted to know more, and we spoke for hours. And you know, technically, we could have given our lives to Christ right then, because that's how the Lord is.
Right.
You don't have to be in a formal building. You don't. It doesn't have to be a formality. Just when He calls and He knocks, just answer. Just say, "Here I am, Lord." Right? When your heart is ready. Yeah. But we decided to that Sunday get up in church together. I went with him to church and give our lives to Christ together. And we began our walk as brother and sister in Christ. And then we got married in about a year later in 1995. And that was my intro to understanding what it means to give your life to Christ in earnest. Because I said, this time I'm going to get it right. Yeah. The first time I didn't understand it, and it kind of got away from me. But this time, I'm gonna learn how to do this thing the right way. Right. And I'm so glad I did.
And I think God wanted to make sure that you were both on the exact same page, that you were ready to marry by being spiritually yoked together.
Oh, yeah.
And so how important do you think it is to, you know, sometimes we think, well, I love him, I'm going to marry him, and then we'll grow together. I'll be able to save him or introduce Christ to him, and that will happen down the road. But as you found out, it's really better to be yoked together on the same page with God before you get married. I know you do a lot of marriage counseling.
So interesting you should say that, because even though we got saved together, Gabriel did a 3-day fast before he proposed to me. And he said the reason he did was because he knew the Lord loved me. And he said, I needed to make sure I was the man for you, and you were the woman for me. And he did a 3-day fast, and the Lord let him know, gave him a vision of me in a white dress, and said, she's a jewel for you. So he knew then, okay, this is the right one, but he didn't rush into it. So even with that, I think, number one, I know, especially women, don't we have lists for everything? Like his joke, Mom, you have a list for everything. Go down your list. Well, don't a lot of women, especially, I can't speak for men, but women have lists. I want them to be this, I want them to be this.
Exactly.
But I would say, at the top of the list, put a praying man. Because if he's a praying man, his heart is tied to God, that means God's going to tie his heart to you. And if there's anything he's doing that you are not happy about, God's going to tell him about it in prayer. He's going to come out of that prayer and say, honey, did I do such and such? Yes, you did. Well, the Lord will actually speak to him in regards to whatever it is we need, right, as women, and then it's that covering. So yes, to be equally yoked, absolutely. But I'd say top of the list, ask God for a praying man, and then know that in a marriage, anyone can't have a wedding, right? You just need a bank account to have a wedding, right? You just throw a big party. You have a marriage, you got to have those spiritual marriage accounts where you're depositing into his account, he's depositing into your account. You're not doing overdrafts or withdrawals, because you have to nurture that. So you have to know what the other person's needs are. You know, marriage is not how it just makes you feel, it's what are you pouring back into your spouse.
Right.
And we like to tell, I like to tell the girls when we're doing the premarital counseling, I'll say, now remember in the beginning, when he was put into that deep sleep, God took his rib. what do the ribs do? They protect the heart. And I say, this man sitting next to you, you're going to be the protector of his heart, because that's what you're here for. I said, in doing that, that's a huge responsibility. Yeah. But you also have to ask the question, like you said, well, he'll get saved one day. Maybe he'll, okay, but while you're protecting that heart, what kind of heart do you want to protect? Do you want a heart that's lying or deceitful or doesn't love God or, you know, loves the world? No, you want to protect a heart that has a heart for God and you.
Right.
So that's another thing. When you're picking that man, know you have to protect that heart that comes with him.
Right.
So, and ladies the same.
And it's such good words, Stephanie, because a marriage is difficult enough.
Yeah.
With Christ as the center, you know, because our flesh always wants to get involved and me first, you know. But it's so true that to come together, and I think of a triangle, you know, and here's the wife and the husband and Jesus at the top, and the closer we edge towards Jesus, the closer we actually are to each other. And so really just great words of wisdom on that. Your story is, I just love your story, and I love all the God highlights and really the miracles that he's done. And you've written a book telling about it. Would you share with us about the book and how our viewers can find it?
Absolutely. So the name of the book is Girl Undone, Girl Redeemed, because I was truly a girl undone, and I needed the Lord to redeem me and to create in me that person he wanted me to be. And so I touch on in the book my story, because that was the path I was brought on, right? And that's my story. But I don't want it to end there. I just use that as the catalyst to show how God will show up in our darkest hours, how he never leaves our side, how even though when we don't know him, he knows us. And even though when we don't expect him to show up, he's never left. You know, he's always been there. And so I want people to know that you can live your legacy of life. And don't be stuck as long as I was, you know, and know that he's right by your side. And at any time, you can choose that destiny and that purpose that he has for you. And so I hope that the book is an encouragement and allows people maybe an opportunity for them to also decide that they want to share their story and to move forward in that. Yeah, so it'll be available, I believe, the first of the year, and working on some of the final edits. I know my editor, I'm probably driving her crazy. I'm a little slow, but we're getting there, and it's been just a little bit of a labor. I'm not an author, really. I'm just a girl sharing a story. Right. That's all I am. And I just feel like it was impressed on me to do, and again, when the Lord tells me to do something, I just want to be obedient. And hope that if it can help one person. Because I know that when I was going through what I was going through, you just need to hear from one person. You need that one word. And if I can be that one word for that one person, we're all miniature universes. And if I can help impact one person, that's a whole universe changed. So, yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Well, in our closing minutes, I know that you've already shared so much of what God's taught you and how he's taught you, but if you could speak directly to our audience today, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I would want you to know who you are and know whose you are. And if you find yourself in a place that's difficult, maybe you've experienced loss or grief or trauma, maybe you're just uncomfortable here in this place that we call our lives, know that we weren't made to be here. We're made for a greater kingdom. Your home is actually in the kingdom of God, and it's everlasting. We're just ambassadors here. We're representing the King of Kings. And when you know that, you'll just enter into his gates. And this morning, even just getting ready for speaking today, I was led to Isaiah 4:6, and it talks about God's tabernacle and how it's a place of refuge and a place from the heat and a place from the storm and a place of protection. And I really believe that he's saying to all of us today, beloved, come back to me. Come into this refuge. Come out of the storm. He knows what's ahead in all of our lives and in this world. And no matter what chaos is around, we have to know that he has total control. And how do you get into this tabernacle? It's through his son, Jesus. He gave his life. He shed his blood for me and for you. And all we have to do is receive this beautiful gift and have the eternity with him in his kingdom. And how do you do that? No matter where you are, it doesn't have to be a formality. You don't have to be in a church pew to do this. You don't have to be called to an altar call. The altar call is just you and Jesus. You can be in your car, you can be at home, you could be sitting, at your bedside. And all you have to do is just come before his throne and just say, Father, I ask for your forgiveness. I ask for your grace to cover my life. Lord, save me. Allow Jesus Christ to enter into my life and fill me. I receive the gift of your Son, who gave his life for me. And he rose again, and he lives. And because he lives, you can live also. Allow him to fill you with his Spirit and make you a new creature in Christ. Because whom the Son sets free, he is free indeed. And if you're tired of carrying that baggage, you know what? Do like I did in a prayer. Put it all in a big brown box in your mind. Put all of the bitterness and the hurt and the anger and all that you've gone through. Tape it up and pick it up in your spiritual mind and offer it to God and say, here you are, Lord. I surrender. I surrender it all. I surrender all the bitterness and the hurt. And I want you to carry it for me. And he'll take it from you. And you'll feel that freedom and you'll feel that release. And you know what? Your hands will be open. And when your hands are open, you can receive from him. So I encourage you today, let go and let God. And if you haven't before, go ahead and try Jesus.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for so beautifully sharing your story and sharing truth. And it's real. I mean, we felt your pain, we feel your joy. And so I encourage you to get her book, Girl Undone, Girl Redeemed. She also has a website, girlredeemed.com. So if you would like Stephanie to come and speak to your group, or if you just want to talk to her one-on-one, just reach out to her through her website. And Tiffany and I would love to hear from you as well. You can reach us at info@roaringlambs.org. And like Stephanie said in the very beginning, we encourage you to tell your story of what Jesus has done in your life. And if you don't have Jesus in your life, then I hope today's the day that you recite the prayer that Stephanie talked about and invite him into your life. And again, if you know Jesus, today's the day that you are called to go out and roar about the goodness of God.
I am a roaring lamb. I am a roaring lamb, and the time has come to take my stand. Yeah, I am a roaring lamb. I am a roaring lamb, and the time has come to take my stand.